All right, one more minute, guys, and then we'll go ahead and get started. I see a lot of new faces, so if you're new to the CSL online lab series, welcome, welcome, and hopefully you'll have fun today. Another thing that I'd like to share is that if you don't have all the reagents or materials that you need for today's lab, that's okay. You could just follow along with us for now, and then afterwards, we will provide a video. So when you do get the materials, you're able to do it by yourself. Or if you want to do it today and then repeat the experiment later, we do always provide a video of today's class, so you guys can follow up with that. Just concerning housekeeping rules, again, if you are not making a comment after you've been called on by myself. Oh, I'm Dr. Candace, by the way. Hi, if you don't know me, Dr. Candace. So yeah, so keep yourselves on mute until I acknowledge you. And you guys are more than welcome to use the message box or the chat box to send me any messages or any questions that you do have. I'll try to keep a close eye out to see who is raising their hand, but sometimes I miss out. So yes, we are going to go ahead and get started today with eggshell geodes. So really exciting experiment, you guys, but I do like to give this forewarning that this experiment has to develop overnight. So today we're going to learn a little bit about eggshells and then the materials in our experiment. I mean, not eggshells. You guys know what eggshells are. We're going to learn about geodes and then the materials that we're going to use today. And then we're going to set this experiment in a quiet space, and you guys are going to do me a favor and check up on it tomorrow. Okay, cool? All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and hopefully share this presentation. Okie dokie. So again, we are recording our workshop, so you guys have access to this information later. So you are more than welcome to share your video. You do not have to share your video, but just know if you are sharing your video, your likeness, those beautiful faces of yours are being recorded, and they'll just be shared with everybody who has registered for this class. So everybody who is currently in the classroom right now will have access to these videos. And also, we will have 2 Zoom polls. We will have one before we get into some content, and then one after we wrap up the experiment. So please, please, please take part in our Zoom polls. And again, make sure you have fun. If you're not having fun, send me a message. We'll figure it out. But also pay attention and learn a little bit today. All right, so if you are participating today, material-wise, you will need eggs, and those eggs will need to be broken and the insides not discarded, but eaten if you can, so we don't waste. And you actually need the egg shells. Good jobs. So if you currently have intact eggs, you can go ahead and start breaking your eggs now just to get the shells. And I'm also going to walk you through later about breaking the eggs, how to break them, and also cleaning them and drying them. But if you want to go ahead and get started on that now while we go through the background, you guys can break your eggs, put the contents of an egg somewhere else, and make sure you rinse off your egg shells and take off the membranes, and then set them on a paper towel to dry. Sorry, somebody's in the chat. So how many eggs? The amount of eggs just decides on what you want to make. So the recipe I think we have here calls for or can make up to 4 eggs, I believe. But if you have 1 egg, you could do 2 different colors. If you'd have 2 eggs, you could do 4 different colors, but that's totally up to you, Wagner household. But it also depends how many secondary containers you have. So if you have 6 cups, then you can essentially do 6 different colors. So I would break 3 eggs in half and get 6 egg halves. Make sense? All right, so you need your eggs. You need 1 3/4 cups of borax powder. You need 5 plastic cups, and again, you can have more or less plastic cups, but you just need enough plastic cups to hold the different color egg geodes that you're making. So if you're making 5 different color geodes and you have 5 different pieces of eggshell, you need 5 cups. If you have 2 pieces of eggshell, you need 2 cups. You also are going to need food coloring. And then what you're going to need parental supervision for is the 2 cups of boiling water. So we do not want you handling boiling water as a minor yourself. So this water should be boiled by an adult. And when you're handling the hot water, an adult should be there with you as well. Okay, guys? We don't want any accidents happen, no burns happening. All right, so right now, before we get into the background, again, you could be, if your eggshells aren't clean, you could go ahead and crack your eggs open and clean your eggshells and dry them on a paper towel. And then you can also start to bring your 2 cups of water to a boil. All right, and while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and launch the Zoom poll. And again, just try your best to answer these questions. If you don't know, take an educated guess. There are 6 questions today, so I'm going to give you guys a chance to have your parents get your water boiling, clean your eggshells and dry them if need be, if that's not already done. And also, I'm going to launch this Zoom poll that you guys can participate in. All right, so the poll's up. I'm gonna give you guys about 6 minutes, which is a minute for each question to answer your Zoom poll questions, and prepare your eggshells again and boil your water. And while we're going, Easton, if you still had a question, you could go ahead and ask me now. All right, we still have some people completing their poll. Go ahead, Easton.
We don't have our boiling water or eggshells cracked yet.
Okay, so you could go ahead and crack your eggs open and rinse off the shells and put them on a paper towel, and then
Yes.
ask mom to get 2 cups of water and a saucepan boiling. Yes, 2 cups of water and a saucepan boiling. Is mom with you?
No.
Daddy is.
Daddy is.
Oh, hey, Dad. Yeah, so we're gonna want to get 2 cups of water boiling, and then get his eggs cracked and just rinse them off and take the membrane out and dry them with a paper towel.
Copy
Yes.
In the meantime, Easton, you can scroll through and complete the poll if you haven't already.
I'm done.
Oh, okay. Good job. Should have known. Easton, you would be done. But all right, take care of that and put yourself back on mute for me. All right, we're waiting for one more person to finish up on the Zoom poll. And you guys, you don't have to rush with your egg breaking. We will have plenty of time for that and your water boiling. So you could still be taking care of that in the background. All right. Poll time is just about over. So we're going to go ahead and end that. And we're going to get into our background information. So a little bit of science for you guys today. So geodes, what are they? So geodes are rocks that are plain on the outside, but can have beautiful crystals on the inside. And in the Greek language, geo means the shape of an earth. So a geode is usually in a round spherical shape, or sometimes it could be like oblong, kind of like a watermelon shape. But they can also be a couple of inches to all the way to several feet in size, so bigger than a person. There's also caves that are geodes, and you can walk through a very huge geo, and I'll show you a video of that in just a second. But geodes can be found all throughout the world, and most of the time they're concentrated, or they can be found in deserts or dry areas. Also, volcanic areas are is a very common place to find geodes. And in our country, the United States, geodes can be found in California, Arizona, Utah, Nevada, Illinois, Missouri, Kentucky, and Iowa. And in fact, Iowa State Rock is actually a geode. And when it comes to worth, so these things look really sparkly and nice, right? So they could be worth anywhere from a couple of dollars to thousands of dollars, depending on their shape, size, and actually what crystal is growing inside of them. So here on the screen, we see a very large geode with amethyst crystals inside. So that's what gives it its purple color, because that's amethyst. All right, so how are geodes created? So geodes are created in hollow areas of soil, such as old animal burrows or tree roots. And they can also form in the bubbles of volcanic rock. So how does this happen? So once there is a hole left behind from an animal who has burrowed there in the past, there are minerals in the soil that seep down via water and then form a crust or a hollow shell within that area in the dirt or soil. Then, as more minerals seep down into that hole, the crystals start growing. And they start growing from the outside of the shell into the middle. And the most common mineral that's dissolved in soil that forms crystals is actually quartz. And it could take hundreds to millions of years for geodes to form, and actually for the space on the inside to completely fill up. And when the space on the inside completely fills up, scientists call those thunder eggs. And you can see a picture or an example of some small thunder eggs right here on the screen. So I'm going to show a short video about the largest geode in the world. His accent's a little funky, but just pay attention to what you see.
Giant geode. The Shell Geodes of Pulpit in South Spain is a cave of crystals formed during the Messinian salinity crisis 6 million years ago, when the Mediterranean Sea evaporated and left thick layers of salt and gypsum sediment called evaporites.
So I'm hearing
This
you
was
guys
caused by
can't
the marine
see anything. Could you guys see the video? Yes, no?
No, we're not able to see it, Dr. Candace.
Okay.
But we can hear it.
Hmm.
We just can't see it.
Can you guys see the YouTube video now or no? No. Okay, we'll skip the video. I'll just come back to it later. And we'll get into our information. All right, so today we will be using eggshells to actually mimic the creation of geodes. So again, geodes take thousands, if not million years to form, but today we're gonna make one overnight. And how are we gonna make one using an eggshell? We are going to create a super saturated solution. So right now you are heating up water, and that water is going to be turned into our super saturated solution by adding in the borax powder, which is a salt. So when you heat up water, the molecules, they spread apart and they move around really quickly. So as you heat up the water, the molecules move apart. That means more borax salt can interact with those water molecules and become dissolved. So the warmer a liquid is, the more salts or solutes or that powder can be dissolved in that liquid. Now, once no more powder dissolves in that liquid has enough. It is saturated, meaning no more solutes or crystal powder can be dissolved. And then when we cool down that solution, because remember it's really hot now, so our water molecules are moving around really quickly and they have a lot of space in between. When we cool that mixture down, those water molecules come back together and push out the salt crystals and forms a precipitant. And that precipitant is what falls down on your eggshells and forms the crystals. And this does take a few hours on the eggshells, so it's gonna go about overnight. All right, let's start our activity. To make crystal geodes out of eggshells, we will need the following materials. First things first, of course, we need some eggshells. So try to use your eggs from breakfast. We don't want to waste, but just make sure you crack your eggs neatly. And if you can't crack them like this, crack them long ways, just so we have a lot of surface area to grow our crystals on. Also, we're going to need borax, which is seen here. We're going to need about 3/4 cups of borax powder. We're going to need 2 cups of water. We're also going to need food coloring, and your food coloring is going to help you decide what color crystals that you're going to grow. At home, you're going to be using a pot on the stove to boil your water, but here in the lab, I'm going to be using a hot plate and a beaker. All right, now that we have our materials down, the first thing we're going to need to do is make our super saturated borax solution. The way we're going to do this is we're going to add 2 cups of water into our pot at home or my beaker and 3/4 cups of borax powder, and then we are going to bring that to a boil. So if you guys are currently boiling your water, You can add in your borax powder now while it's not boiling, or you could bring it to a boil and then dissolve your powder. It doesn't matter which way you do it. But if you have hot water, boiling water, you can go ahead and add your borax powder now and start to get it to dissolve. So as the mixture heats, be sure to stir it a bit with a spoon. And once it comes to a boil, it should be clear and most of your borax should be dissolved. If all of your borax does not dissolve, that's okay. That just ensures that we have a super saturated solution. Again, keep stirring your mixture until it comes to a gentle boil. And right now you can see that it is pretty opaque. It's not clear yet. So we're going to keep stirring and trying to add more borax into the solution. So once your borax solution comes to a gentle boil, it should then clear up and look more so like this. It might have a yellowish kind of brown tint, but that's okay. That's just because the salt crystals have now fully dissolved in the water, and we now have a super saturated solution that we will now have to cool. So you can remove your pot at home from the fire, but I'm going to use safety gloves and then remove my hot beaker from the hot plate so that it can cool down. So now that we've removed, so this is again where you guys would need adult supervision. So once it comes to a boil, please remove it from the fire or the hot plate and set it to the side so it can start to cool down. Zoe, how much borax? So if we're using 2 cups of water, you're going to want to use 2 cups of water and 3/4 cups of borax, or you could use 4 cups of water and 1 3/4 cup of borax. But I would go for 2 cups and then 3/4 cups. That's it. That's enough solution. Or you might want to double up because it's Uin River. Removed our super saturated borax solution from the heat. We are now going to allow it to cool down. And this cooling process, very slow cooling process, is key to make sure that our crystals form very uniformly and even. So just give it about 15 to 20 minutes to properly cool down to about room temperature. Your borax solution, or your super saturated borax solution, should now be clear, so it shouldn't be opaque anymore. And also it should be room temperature, or at least cool enough that we can touch it. We don't want it completely cold though. And after you create this, you'll be ready to get into the activity. So now that we've created our super saturated borax solution, we can now get started. Okay, so how many people are participating and have a borax solution prepared? Okay, Becca's, Elizabeth, cool. Okay, cool, everybody. All right, good job, good job. So you guys are doing really well. And again, Ms. Zoe asked a very good question. I'll go ahead and just address it verbally for you guys. But she said she added too much borax powder to her water. And guess what? That's okay, because we're supposed to be forming a super saturated borax solution. So the more borax that we could get to dissolve in that solution, the better our crystals are going to grow on our eggshells. So if you can get all of your borax to dissolve, you could actually try to add more, maybe a tablespoon at a time, and see if you could get more and more to dissolve. And you can stop adding borax when you see some of the crystals starting to collect in the bottom of the pot or container. Because if you can keep adding more, that means your solution is not super saturated. But as soon as you see crystals falling out of the solution, that means that your water or your solution is super saturated and it cannot take any more of those salt crystals dissolving in it. All right? So now that we have clean eggshells, right? Clean and dried eggshells, and we have our super saturated borax solution, we're going to proceed into setting up our eggshell geodes so they can grow overnight. All right, let's get into that.
The activity. Moving forward, you're going to need your supersaturated solution with borax and water. Again, our solution was 2 cups of water and 3/4 cups of borax powder. And then we brought that to a boil, and then we cooled it to room temperature enough so we can touch and manage it. Then, depending on how many geodes you're going to want to make or how many different colored geodes you're going to want to make, you're going to need secondary containers. So see here, I have 2 smaller beakers, so I'm essentially going to make 2 different colored geodes here. And again, to make our geodes different colors, we're going to be using everyday food coloring, seen here. And our crystals, which are in our supersaturated borax solution, are going to be growing on eggshells. So just make sure that your eggshells are pretty much intact like this, and they have a good surface to grow crystals. Make sure they're dry and clean, so no of the inside egg remnants left behind here. All right, so we need supersaturated borax solution, secondary containers to create our different colored crystal geodes. We need the food coloring to color our crystal geodes, and also we're going to need our clean and dry eggshells. All right. Again, we won't be seeing any crystals form today, but today we're going to set up the conditions for crystals to form. To do that, we're going to first add a little bit or enough of some of our supersaturated borax solution to our secondary containers.
Now, please have an adult pour the hot supersaturated solution into your secondary containers. Just again, we want you guys to stay safe, and we don't want any burns or spills or accidents. So while your solution is still a bit warm, you're going to want to pour them into the secondary containers that you will actually be growing your crystal geodes in. So again, if you're doing 2 different colors, you're going to want to fill up 2 different containers. If you're doing 4 different colors, you're going to want to add about 3/4 cup of the supersaturated solution into those secondary containers. And again, use your parents' help, or just make sure you have adult supervision.
And I just have 2 here, but you can decide how many geodes that you want to make or how many different colored geodes that you want to make, and just make sure that you pour out an aliquot or separate enough solution for your different colors and the different amount of eggs. So again, here I have 2 cups with supersaturated borax solution. So essentially I could do 2 different colors. So I'm going to choose to do green, and you can go ahead and add a few drops of food coloring to your supersaturated borax solution. And then I'm going to make a blue one. You know what? The signs of mixing colors, you guys, I'm going to want to make teal over here, so I'm going to add 2 drops of blue to that green. And then overhead, over here, I want this blue to be a little bit deeper, so I'm going to add some red food coloring, just 2 drops of red food coloring to that beaker. We're gonna wanna give these a stir. All right. And then go ahead and give this one a stir. All right. So now that we have our colored solutions, our colored supersaturated solutions, we're now going to want to place our eggshells down inside the solutions and just make sure that the inside of the eggshell is face up. And you want to put them all the way submerged down into the cups. Bye, Mr. Eggshell. See you soon when you turn into a geode. So our eggshells have to sit in our colored supersaturated borax solutions at least overnight. So here is where I'm going to pause my video. Then I'm going to share some time-lapse photos of the crystals growing on the eggshell. So right now, this is at hour 0. So we just placed our eggshells in the supersaturated borax solution. And once you guys do this at home, I want you to make sure you set your eggshells in a place that doesn't vibrate a lot and will not be disturbed. And just let them go. Check back after 1 day. And after 1 complete day, I want you to write down or record your observations of what you see. One cool thing about this experiment is that the more patient you are, the better crystals that you'll get. So there'll be crystals growing on your eggshells after 1 day, but if you leave it longer, let's say for 2 days, the crystals will be even bigger and more magical.
So again, you guys, you're going to want to make sure you have enough liquid in your secondary containers to cover your entire eggshell. So just make sure you fill up those secondary cups with enough of your supersaturated solution to cover your entire eggshell. See, like mine, like you can't see any of the eggshells. Now, let's take a trip into the future.
So it's only been about 1 hour, and you can already see that we have borax crystals falling out of our supersaturated solution. So in the back was just our supersaturated solution without coloring, and the 2 beakers in the front, again, are our supersaturated solutions with food coloring, and also our eggshells are inside there. So you can see after about an hour, we have crystallization on the top of the surface. And also, you should see some crystals gathering up at the bottom of your cups or your flasks or beakers or whatever you're using at home. So after about 1 hour at room temperature, you can see as our supersaturated borax solution cools down, that we have crystals falling out of solution or precipitating to the bottom of the flask. Now, our colored experiments for our geodes also have precipitation of borax crystals in the bottom of the beakers, but they also have crystals forming on top. And this is what we want to see. So if your experiment is looking like this, then we are all good to go. Keep up the good work. And again, do not disturb your crystals. Just observe them with your eyes, and you can write down your observations or take pictures, and you guys can make your own time-lapse experiment as well. So we were patient enough to wait overnight, and let's take a look and see how our geodes formed. Now you can see a lot of crystallization of the borax salt on the beaker or probably on your cups at home themselves, but we're gonna go ahead and grab a pair of tweezers and also some paper towel to move forward. Now, just because I can see it and it's lighter, I'm gonna go ahead and reach in and try to grab my green eggshell out of here. So you might have to give it a little tug to detach it from the bottom, but after you wiggle them around, they should come out looking like this.
So that's after
How cool, right?
16 hours overnight, guys.
Now, the salt crystals in the center are probably some that just fell off of the top of the solution after I disturbed it. But we're gonna go ahead and place this back in because I want to check out the one that's in the blue. Oh. Again, they might be stuck because of the crystals to the bottom of your cup, but just go ahead and give them a little wiggle and a pull. And it should free up and look just like this. And here, my blue one has a lot more crystallization than the green one did. So what I'm gonna do is actually employ a second experiment. I'm gonna take the blue one out and set it on my paper towel to dry, but I'm gonna leave my green one in the solution and see if larger crystals grow on my blue geode. All right, so this is a geode, an egg geode with borax crystals on it after about 16 to 18 hours or overnight. We're gonna leave this one go a little bit more and I'll come back to the lab and check it.
All right, guys, fast forward to day 2.
All right, you guys, this is what our blue geode looks like now that it has dried overnight. So you can see that there's large crystals that have formed and covered our entire eggshell. And it's also a lot heavier because that solid salt has crystallized to the egg shell structure and made this eggshell a lot more sturdy and a lot more heavier. More dense and more mass has been added to the eggshell. So it's actually pretty hard. So remember, this is how much formed, how much salt crystals formed after 16 hours or overnight, and then we then dried it overnight. But remember I said I was gonna leave the geode that was growing in the green solution over 2 nights. So I'm gonna again grab my tweezers, and now we're gonna remove our green geode, which has been growing for about 2 days now. And again, you might need to wiggle to detach it from the bottom of your cup or flask. But then once we lift it up, wow. Okay, so this is really cool. So the only thing I notice here is that the crystals are just a little bit larger in diameter when comparing over 1 night to over 2 nights, but the thickness of the crystals is just about the same here. So we're gonna do the same for this crystal geode. I'm gonna flip it upside down so that it drains properly and everything gets dried so that our salt crystals really stick onto there. And then we're going to come back to it in a few hours and talk about and just observe our Easter egg geodes. So I'm going to give this a second to dry, and then once it dries, we're going to come back and just do a little observation of our eggshell crystallization in the process. But now that these have dried again overnight, they're pretty sturdy, but crystals again are still very fragile. So you guys can use these for decorations, but make sure you keep them in a safe place where they will not get damaged by any of your siblings or maybe a pet knocking them off of a shelf. Pretty cool, huh? You can go ahead and try to make more colors if you have. So again, you could just repeat the procedure. Next time mom makes some eggs and just change up the food coloring options. Cool.
All right, guys. So thanks for the thumbs up, Easton. So yeah, so right now you guys should be all set up to be patient and wait at least overnight, at least until the morning. Thank you for your patience. At least until the morning, until you disturb your crystals, your geodes at that point. And also, if you can notice, after they dry, the color kind of fades. So don't be afraid to make your color of your saturated solution really intense, because it kind of fades after a while, is what I notice when they dry. But does anybody have any questions before we wrap up and take our last Zoom poll? I'll open up the chat box, and or you guys can unmute yourself. Okay, go ahead, Easton. Unmute.
How do they crystals form? It's just so cool. They're really cool.
So the crystals form because you put these salt crystals, you dissolved it in hot water. Then when that water cools down, those crystals fall out of the solution, or precipitate, as we say. And as those crystals precipitate, they just stack on top of each other very nice and neatly and symmetrically. And that's how the crystals are formed. So the crystals are from the borax powder that you dissolved in the water. Remember, we put too much borax in the water, so it was super saturated. So when it started to cool down, that borax salt, it started to crystallize and precipitate and fall out of solution. And then it started collecting on your eggshells. And once one crystal lays down, that's called
that's really cool.
site. And then more and more and more crystals, precipitates, just builds up on it. So like I said, guys, the more borax you could get dissolved in your solution, the bigger and better your crystals are going to be.
That's really cool.
Thanks, Easton. Hope you had fun today. Anything else? Anybody else?
I had lots of fun.
Okay.
I can hardly wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, well, be patient. You guys try your best to be patient. And after one day, you can go ahead and check it like I did. And you can take it out then and you can dry it. Or if you have a lot of patience, you can again let it go for another day and see. No, Zoe, you can't do it?
I can't either.
Okay. Well, if you can, you could let it go for 2 days and see if you get larger crystals for it.
I could probably wait for one day for the green, and then wait for another day for the red, and then wait for another day for the yellow.
That's a good plan. 3 different colors, 3 different time points. Yes, sir. C sharp.
Are these geodes?
Yes, sir, they are. So they have that thin layer of rock on the outside, but that looks like quartz crystals forming on the insides there.
Yeah, I found them at my friend's house when we had a play day in Tennessee.
Wow. Well, he had some cool things in his house. But yes, those are geodes. And like I said, you can find them anywhere and everywhere. So who knows what part of the world those geodes might have come from. Maybe the United States, maybe somewhere in the Middle East. But yeah, that's really cool. Thanks for sharing.
I thought they looked like a brain.
Yeah, those crystals can form a little crazy on the inside there. Not all crystals form nice and even. So if we cooled down your solution really fast, your crystals would not form nice and beautiful and evenly. So that's why after boiling, we just wanted a slow cool down at room temperature. And then that will allow for beautiful uniform crystals to form for you guys. So don't try to stick them in the fridge and cool them down quickly and think you're gonna get some crystals, all right? Just wait overnight. Yes, ma'am, Elizabeth?
So my brother, I don't know how he found these crystals or geodes, and we break them open, and it's so cool to watch how they break open, because you just break them open and then it's just a crystal.
Yeah, Miss Elizabeth, I actually had geodes to break open for you guys today, but I left them in my car. But so I'm happy that you've already experienced that. But yeah, on the outside, it just looks like a rock. And when you break them open, it looks like beautiful geodes inside. So next time you guys go outside and you're picking up a rock, if that rock is kind of a lot lighter than the other rocks around it, it might be lighter because it's hollow on the inside, and it could contain a geode. Okay, thank you, Miss Elizabeth, for that input. Miss Zoe, go ahead.
We've actually done the same thing, and we got to watch somebody crack them open, and so now I actually still have it, even though it was a couple of years ago, and it was really cool. It's like perfect on the inside.
All right, well, I'm happy that you guys have already experienced that. Maybe next week I'll remember to bring them up from my car, and we can crack open the geodes that I have next week, because next week it's about rock formation as well. So it's kind of on the same subject. All righty, any other question, comments, or concerns before our final Zoom poll? You guys ready for the Zoom poll? Ready to tell me what you learned, if you learned? All right, I'm going to go ahead and launch it now. All right, the Zoom poll is launched. Again, they are the same questions. So I want, and this is just checking if you guys learned anything or if you were paying attention while I was talking about the cool things about geodes and also supersaturated solutions. And also, you guys, when you, tomorrow morning or afternoon, after your geodes form, feel free to take a picture and or time-lapse video and have your parents share it with us via our Facebook page and our Instagram accounts, just so I can check up on you guys' experiments. Or you could bring them to class next week, Tuesday, and we could take a look at everybody's geodes before we get into Tuesday's activity. All right, just 3 more minutes on the poll, or maybe 4 more minutes. Sorry, I'm rushing you guys. 4 more minutes on the poll. And then I'll actually give you the correct answers for the poll. Okay, couple you guys still working. Good, Easton, good job. Okay, you guys learned a little bit. Good job on the poll. All right. So we will start with poll question number 1. So geodes are not wood. They're not fossils. They're as old as fossils, but they're not fossils. And they're actually just rocks. And rocks, again, with the hollow space inside where those minerals can seep down in and start growing and forming those crystals. All right, number 2, true or false? Geodes can be larger than a human. And this is absolutely true. So the video that I was trying to show you guys actually shows a cave, which is one large geode. So you could actually walk through it, and the crystals are over 6 meters. So that's like 2 to 3 humans high. They're huge. Really cool. I wanted to show you, but yeah, technical difficulties didn't allow for me to. But I think if you guys just Google or go to YouTube and look up the largest geode or the geode cave, it's in Spain. And hopefully we can get back on plane soon and visit. All right, number 3. How long do natural geodes take to form? 5 to 10 days, 5 to 10 years, 500 to 1,000 years, or thousands to millions of years? And we're gonna go with the last answer, thousands to millions of years. So yes, they are very precious and very beautiful, but they take a long time to form. over time. All right, number 4, true or false? A supersaturated solution cannot dissolve any more solutes or powder. Is that true or false? We're gonna go with true. So the solution is supersaturated, meaning that it cannot take any more salts or solutes or powder being dissolved in it. So very good, you guys, on number 4. Number 5, a solute that falls out of solution is called a precipitate, a molecule, or an atom. So just like rain and snow fall from the sky and the weatherman calls that precipitation, any solute or solid that falls out of a solution is called a precipitate. So the first choice, very good, you guys, as well on that one. And last but not least, number 6, precipitates can form holes, crystals, or eggs. And everybody got this right by saying crystals. So remember, your salt is falling out of liquid solution. Did you get them all right? Okay, so yeah, so your salts are falling out of that liquid solution, and as they collect on the surface, they are forming crystals. Very good, you guys. I'm proud of you guys. Thank you for all the participation today. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. I'll hang on for another 5 minutes or so to see if you guys have any follow-up questions. But if not, again, do not disturb your eggshells until tomorrow morning. And tomorrow morning, you can go ahead and take a look, take a picture, and again, try to share it with us via your parents and Facebook and or Instagram. All right, guys? It was good seeing you. Be good. Have a good day.
Bye.
See you soon. Yes, C sharp.
I already see like the water starting to like get really crystal like.
So that means your solution is cooling down nice and slowly. And yeah, you might see some crystals on the top. And if you check the bottom of your cup, there might be crystals already down there. So yeah, your experiment's already working. And even though you see something, try to wait. All right? Because these crystals, when they first start forming, they are kind of fragile. So if you shake the glass or disturb it too soon, what has already formed might just break off. And then that site will have to start all over again. But great job. Can't wait to see them.
Thank you.
See you next week. Anything else, Easton? Nope. All right. Have a good day. It's beautiful out. You gonna hang out outside?
Bye.
Bye. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
I'm gonna leave my yellow in for 3 days.
Okay. I'll ask about them next week, okay?
Yes.
All right, we'll check them out.
See you next week.
See you soon,
Bye.
Easton. Bye.